across state lines with hillbillies and guns. It's been a hell of a ride and a whole lot of fun. They gave me many names down there in Dixie, but the main one that stuck on me was whiskey.
And welcome to the Bourbon and Ballistics Podcast, the show where whiskey meets grit, firearms meet freedom, and conversations go far beyond the barrel. I'm Joel Potter and invite you to pour a glass, kick back as we dive into the stories and spirits that bring it all together. Today's guest, we're joined by Josh Huite. Brother, how are you?
Man, better than I deserve, and happy to be here.
I'm so glad you made it. You're the voice behind the Tradesman Experience Podcast, partner at Blue Collar Insiders, and recently just acquired Collard Heating and Air. So very busy. That's in Heron?
It is, Heron,
okay.
Illinois.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've gone from HVAC tech to business owner to business coach, from crew leader to a thought leader. Illinois born and raised. Met you here when you were living a little stint in here in Nevada. And we have a lot to get into. So with every episode I do, which you're aware of, I try to pair a bottle to the guest. Nate's fell a little flat, but it was funny enough. But hopefully we got this one a little bit better. To set the tone for tonight's conversation, I've chosen and maybe you've had it, but
I have not had that.
Okay. So I've chosen Knobel Rickhouse, whiskey founded by Mike Rowe, honoring his grandfather, Carl Knobel, a fellow tradesman. So it's a tribute to the hardworking Americans who build and maintain the world we live in. Proceeds from every bottle go and help fund the Mike Rowe Works Foundation, which is setting up scholarships, training for skills and tradespeople. So it's a whiskey with a purpose, just like the guest of today.
I have to say that's probably the biggest compliment of a bottle that you could have picked.
Good.
The affiliation with Mike Rowe is what a stellar choice, my friend.
He's so cool, and I think he embodies the spirit of blue collar, and I think he really is one of the few people that actually is so forward focused on getting the word out there that we need tradespeople. It's not lost on him how important that is. So as I get this poured up, let's just go over some of the details that we should expect while enjoying this bottle. It's aged around 5 years from what I could find on the internet. It's proofed at 95 points, ABV of 47.5, undisclosed mash bill. So it has a complex and smooth profile of warm spices, open sweet notes of meringue, marmalade, orange, and caramel. So, there she is. Let's get this poured up and give it a shot. We'll get a nose on it, see what you think about it. I was hoping we could get the cast strength, but it was a little outside of the show's budget. So we did the Rickhouse, and I think it's going to be just as fun. Oh yeah, you definitely get the oranges. Well, good job on the nose. Well, with that, brother, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I think that's pretty good.
That is good.
Dang, Mike. Yeah.
That is good.
Okay. Well, now we got the business started. Let's get into you. Let's get to talking about you. I want to kind of start off with the Tradesman Experience because that's how I met you.
Sure.
I was fortunate enough to have you invite me on your show last year, so that was super fun to me. And as I was just getting into podcasting, so I kind of wanted to get in there and see how you were doing things because you guys have peaked over 300 and something episodes at this point. So, why did you start? What need spurred the Tradesman Experience?
We're going to have to turn the clock back then.
Let's do it.
So in 2012, late 2012 is when I discovered podcasts. And that was through a journey of a career change and an opportunity that I seized, and I just had the good fortune of having a great leader at that time who give me an opportunity to learn. And I say that because he wasn't forceful about what I needed to do. It was a suggestion, and several months late, I took that suggestion, learned from it, and as weird as it sounds, it unlocked something in my brain. So I get on the interwebs, Google 2012, and I start trying to find more information, and I discover something called a podcast. 2012 podcast was Dave Ramsey and EntreLeadership, Joe Rogan, Tim Ferriss, and a few others. Very small world of podcasting back then. And I just started listening, and the obsession took over. From that point on, I've been a massive student of podcasts of a wide-ranging variety, but I knew along the line, somewhere around 2015, 2016, that a future version of me wanted to do that as well. I think it's the greatest free resource on the planet to learn, to gain perspective, to gain opinions. And it's just this endless fountain of all of these things. So I think it's very misused and undervalued for the most part, but it sparked something in me that I knew eventually I wanted to give back. So hence 2020, pre-COVID 2020. We didn't know the world was going to change. We started our podcast, the Tradesman Experience, January of 2020. And for me, and this is where I love Nate's personality, because Nate and I met previous to that. Him and my brother started Battleborn Welding. They were pipeliners together. You know, they had a great history of close friendship, business partnership, and all of this. But the Nate that you know today and the Nate that was on here today is not the Nate that I originally met. And I've said this to Nate, so he'll laugh when he hears me say this, but I wouldn't have had that Nate as a co-host of my podcast. So he, in conversation one day, and I was talking about podcasts, he wanted to be a part of it. And I was hesitant, I have to admit, because this was about a 3 or 4 year brainchild. So I was very hesitant because I knew the vision that I had for the podcast, and I didn't want to distort that. So my hesitation, his persistence, we ended up starting the podcast together. And now, for all the right reasons, he's a fantastic co-host, because I think that we have such a different dynamic. Nate is Nate, and he brings a sense of relatability and realism to everything that we talk about, because he shares his experiences as business owner and leader and partner. Whereas me, I have a tendency to hover in the theory and talk high level, even though I'm a fan of application, and I don't think that what we talk about is theory. It is often, I think, confused as theory. So he just brings this really excellent ground level perspective and tactic and relatability. So to wrap this up and answer your question and final, I wanted to give back to the blue collar world, because I've been blue collar my whole life. And when I discovered that the single greatest missing ingredient in my entire life was leadership, I felt that I had a calling to give that. That's what started the Tradesman Experience. That's what's put us on this 5-year journey of 334 episodes, and all the things that we've done wrong and all the things that we've done right with it. The true north of our podcast is authenticity. And we're still going today. And it's been a phenomenal journey. As you stated, you had come on there, And I wanted it to be a platform for real people to share real stories that no one else may ever get to hear about or know about them.
There's a relatability. I mean, even with me not being directly in the trades, I mean, I feel like there's enough application if you're actually sitting down and listening to what you're saying, right? And I think that, between you and Nate, I've been able to apply enough of that in my position as a project manager that I really do appreciate, the content that you guys are putting out. And I do find that it's a very valuable resource for everyday application. So it's not necessarily even, it is, you're geared towards the blue collar worker and the people in the trades. But if people, you take that with you into your personal life as well. All the stuff you're saying is extremely relatable.
Because the core of what I want to share with people is to be a better person. Mm-hmm. Not to be a better project manager, not to be a better boss, or even a better employee. It simply is to be a better person. That's going to be a little bit different for everybody, but the core values are the same. Mm-hmm. I've seen too many people be excellent at their job and they have a destructive home life. I've seen people take advantage of a great home life and be lazy and complacent at work. Mm-hmm. That formula has to add up across the board because you as the person is the constant variable. So whether you're at work, you're at home, you're with your kids, you're with your spouse, you're with your friends, who you choose to be at the end of the day is ultimately what I'm trying to get people to realize and recognize. And a question that I ask often in coaching, and if you were to ask me this question, and if you were to say, Josh, who's the most important person to you? She's sitting in the room. And if you said, and this is the questions I asked, I said, what version of you does she deserve? Mm. And everybody's like, the best. And then my follow-up question was, well, what version of you is she getting? Mm-hmm. So it has nothing to do with your position or title at work. It has nothing to do with your income. It has very little to do with your colleagues and coworkers. It has everything to do with the version of yourself that you choose to be. And I'll just go ahead and say, Joel, this is where I start to lose people, because the depth of what it takes to not only accept this but implement this is more work than what most people want to do.
Sure, 100%.
So they love the idea because the idea makes them feel good. But the work sucks because you have to have hard conversations and you have to discipline your ego and you have to admit when you're wrong and that you're stupid sometimes and all of the things that none of us naturally like to do.
Sure.
Right? So there's this concept that for me, at the core of what I'm trying to do is just at the end of the day, are you a better person than you were yesterday?
And is that, when you came up with the name, the Tradesman Experience, like what is that? Is that the experience that you're trying to give to people? Is that the concept? Yeah, it's multi-layered. Our motto, and it's built into the label, is work, build, inspire. And that's work harder and smarter. That's build relationships and reputation and methods to become successful. And inspire is to lead and inspire others to be great. Mm-hmm. So the Tradesman Experience was based around those pieces. But from a business perspective, my true north of business, you mentioned that we just acquired the HVAC business. Mm-hmm. I appreciate you for doing your homework. That was a fantastic intro. You nailed it. At the end of the day, we are responsible for creating the best experience for the client. So the question is, how do you do that? Well, that's where we dive into the ether of the business. So there was a couple reasons that we did that, and then another reason is because the tradesman was already taken, and I needed to add something to the title, and it seemed like the Joe Rogan Experience and everything that we do. I'm like, so I called Nate because I was driving one day, and it just hit me. I was like, "What about the Tradesman Experience?" He was like, "I love it. Let's do that." Fantastic.
And the name was born. So,
and I think that one of the things I always find interesting is because when I found the show. I started working from the back, from the earliest, very first episodes, and getting closer to getting caught up. And occasionally I'll jump ahead or whatever. If there's something that you post as a short or something, I'm like, oh, I want to hear what that's all about. But I'm trying to listen to every episode from the beginning. But you do mention very frequently, that this was, you wanted to do this by yourself in the beginning, and I can't help but wonder, what, because now, like you had to have, like Nate made this thing the way it is, right? But what was your original plan? Like if it was just you on a podcast, what do you think it would look like now?
Well, it would have been terrible. I really think that, because when you take the conversation out of the conversation, it's just me talking into a microphone, which I do solo episodes.
Sure, of course,
and I enjoy them when I do them. The model would have been to try to interview more people and to try to carry that conversation piece through. But it just would have been different. I say with deprecation that it would have been worse. I just know that it would be different.
Yeah.
And I was invisible online, and I still kind of am, but I mean, Nate brought a following, when he and we started the podcast. So his social media are really the beginning listeners and kind of the OGs of our podcast, and we were able to grow it from that. So I don't know exactly. It's hard to say what it would be like. I think about it time to time, but I do not wish it were different.
Sure.
At all.
I think it's a fantastic show to listen to. And going through it, I mean, you've had a slew of amazing guests that just, I mean, when I leave there, my head's, seconds away from exploding with the amount of stuff that they're going through, right? Can you think of a specific episode that really resonated with you, that stuck with you to this day? We're like, that was the bang, that was the one, and that was such a good one.
Oh, man. I would have to have a couple different categories. A favorite is hard to say. And this is terrible because I always forget his damn name. But the episode that we did, the GSDMF episode, and it was a guy that they pipelined with. And he had the real raspy voice. He didn't say a whole lot, and I cannot remember his name for the life of me. The reason that one sticks out is because I was really trying to peel layers back in that interview that weren't there. And which was great for me, because my immaturity at the time is that everybody has a level of depth and you have to peel through a lot of layers to get there. I learned in that episode that guy just is who he is.
That was his only
that was it. That was the core, that was the surface, that was everything. That was just who he was. And what I love about his responses in that episode is he didn't comprehend my questions because of that. Not for any other reason. It didn't make sense to him because it didn't relate. The Fab team that we did, the all girls Fab team out of Reno, that was one of the most fun. We had so many laughs on and off, and I think they were in our studio for 3 or 4 hours.
Oh, really?
And we went through way too much whiskey, and we just had a lot of fun because they come on there and were very authentic and very real to themselves. So the other one is man, I'm blanking on names because I have a terrible time remembering the past.
You got like 300.
And that's the thing is like we got 300 episodes out.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, there's several that were really, that I did walk away with and just really learned a lot from.
There's when I find the episode that really speaks to me, I try to take some notes away from it and use that, implement it in everyday life. And like I said, I think that it's so cool because it's almost like double speak, to where you can go, yeah, that's job related for sure, but then again, come home and do that very same thing with the kids or whatever, right?
Sure.
It is the leadership role that you are asking people to assume is massive. And I think that a lot of time that gets lost because, if you were to say the tradesman experience, you're saying blue collar, and if you're like, well, I'm not blue collar, this isn't going to really resonate with me, but it does. And I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. I love listening to it. I'm in 2021, I think now, so we're getting close, so
you're glutton for punishment, my friend.
I'm having such a good time with it, and it's like I said, it's something where, if I'm doing some dumb desk work, just kind of fiddle fucking around, it's like, this is what I want to do, is just listen to that. And so, like I said, Nate brings the, some real authenticity to the show, and it's like, I don't know. I mean, it's great for me, and he is just, a cussing motherfucker, and it's just, and I love that, it's so realistic and relatable. Where, and when I'm at work, we don't get to talk very much because we're up in a desk and HR is right around the corner, so, so with that, how do you, when you guys are creating content, what's the process to keep the show relevant, to keep it fresh? Because I mean, it is a niche, really. I mean, there's a lot to learn about leadership, but how do you keep that fresh?
Current affairs of our lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
I guess that's true, huh?
That's the simple, truest answer. We talk through a lot of stuff. Nate comes up with ideas. He'll text me, or I'll come up with ideas and I'll text him. But I would bet you that 9 out of 10 times it's current affairs of our lives. I don't want to say we, I'll speak for myself. I try to make sure that I don't share too early in the event. There's just certain pieces that I know I need to get through, and then I can revisit that with some hindsight and then make it relevant and relatable, because then there's some educational data as opposed to just in the shit. You don't know what's going to happen. Right. And not that I want to pretend that I have the answers, but I don't want to be unintelligent about something, if that makes sense. It's probably my ego, but I just want to be as authentic and educated as possible.
Fantastic. What's the biggest misunderstanding because I asked Nate the same question, the biggest misunderstanding that people have about the trades?
Oh, that you've got to be stupid. That you need to be an ex-con. That school wasn't a good option for you, or that you failed out of school. It just all of these. It's very stigmatic. It's and it's irritating for me because some of the smartest, most successful people I know are in the blue collar industries. If you think that you can do what Battle Born Welding does at these houses up at Clear Creek, if you think you can do that and be stupid, you're sadly mistaken. If you think that you can go work on a 60-ton Intellipack on a surgical center and be stupid, you're sadly mistaken. But it's a different kind of intelligence. A lot of us are not book smart, we're mechanical smart. And to open a book and read it top to bottom, left to right, page 1 to end, that formula doesn't formulate. We're going to flip through until we find what we're looking for and then reverse engineer it from there, understand how it works, and then build forward. So the first page is irrelevant to a lot of us. So I just get really frustrated because of that stigma. But here's where it comes from. This is my theory. This is where it comes from. We have accepted this low standard of performance and professionalism that screams stupidity. If you are setting at a stoplight, you've got 2 kids, and you're setting at a stoplight, and they're in the back seat, and you're headed to volleyball practice, and you're at a stoplight. You got the windows down because it's a day like today, and if somebody pulls up next to you in a busted-ass van with the window down, sawed-off T-shirts, disheveled hair, face, whatever, smoking a cigarette with the music blasting, not one part of you is going to look back at your two kids and go, you should do that when you grow up. So the stigma that's been placed on us is a result of the standard that we have set for ourselves. And I truly believe that. Because if you go back in industrial era, post-industrial era, when the true craftsman, the true tradesman was born, and you can look at some of the, at their work, that's still standing from the early 1900s to mid 1900s. Not everybody, but there was a sense of pride in what they did. And we've misplaced that. And we've replaced it with complacency and complaining. We've misplaced that with believing that you have to be a D-level student to be accepted into the trades, and that you have to be brash, and you have to be an alcoholic, and that you have to have a record, and that you... Look, I'm okay with hazing and harassment and getting your ass beat. I think there's some acceptance in the brotherhood of that.
Sure, of course.
But we are the reason that stigma has been put on us. So,
do you think 330 something episodes in, I mean, are you still getting the feedback that's such that you feel like you're still making positive progress in the perception of the trades?
I do.
Okay.
I get feedback weekly, and even if it's if one person decides to sit down and send me a message, it's worth it. The brilliance of having a volume of episodes is that you're lucky enough to have at least one that's relatable to somebody in their current state. So they may listen to 332 episodes and it's information, and then that one just strikes them.
Boom. Yeah. That kind of ties into that. I really did want to, because you're the first podcaster that I've had on the show. And so I think that it's fun because we kind of went through it when I was sitting down for years before, while we were waiting for Nate, about some of the trials and tribulations about podcasting, right? And and before we started this show, I mean, last week, last episode with Destiny, the microphones weren't recording, right? And we got through an hour worth of content, and it was like, holy shit, we got to start over. But so I wanted to kind of really just, shoot the shit with you about podcasting, because I think that what's one of the things that you've done that was your oh fuck moment, like since you've been recording?
I stopped editing it. We got to a point, the first 100 episodes are just terrible in my opinion, but we were putting the reps in, and that's what you do. You suck at everything in the beginning. It doesn't matter, and I accept that. The switch for me is I stopped caring about it being perfect. I stopped caring about dead airspace. I stopped caring about ums and ahs. I stopped caring about mistakes and stumbles. Unless someone tells me specifically that they don't want that name or that thing mentioned, I don't edit any of our podcasts anymore. And I bet you in 200 episodes, I've had to clean up 3. So for me, it was just having that back to authenticity of this is who we are. This is how we speak. This is how we stop and think. This is how we screw it up. I realized I didn't need to take all of that away. If I wanted to be true to us and true to our message, you get the raw version. You get the raw, unedited, uncleaned version of us every week.
I like, on occasion, I'll hear like your gears turning, right? There'll be a second where you're like, and I know you have this question you're trying to formulate in your head, and you just come in, it's just a banger, right? And it's just like, listening to Nate will say something or your guest will say something, and then you just have this amazing rebuttal or this this question that comes up after that. It just took that pause to get, and I think that in itself is exactly what all that editing, you try to take that stuff out, and but in the same breath, it's reflective of when you're the host of the show that I can do better, right? I'm like, I say a lot, or I feel the filler words a lot, and so I am trying to get better at that. But when you're taking it all away, it doesn't really come through like that I'm a fucking idiot, right? And I can't speak very well, so it's nice that, and I too, I think after, we talked about that, and I was like, you know what, it's a good point. We just throw out an episode, and just see if it sticks,
That comes from studying other podcasts. If I'm listening to Joe Rogan or Ed Milet, I'm listening to it on multiple levels. And this is where I'm a psychopath about things. I'm listening to the information, but I'm listening to how they articulate questions. I'm listening to how they pause when they think or when they respond. I pay attention to all of those details. The other thing about podcasting is when you go back and listen to your own voice, for the first 100 episodes, you hate your own voice. But it's the best tool to help you articulate. And so for me, it's a constant discipline. That discipline comes with a mindset. You have to put yourself in a particular mindset to sit down and do a podcast. Nate and I have had situations where we will tailgate it for an hour before we hit record. We've had instances where we will tailgate it for an hour or hour and a half and just shut it down and not record that night.
Oh, really?
Yep. We'll shut it down because we just can't click. We can't get that synergy. We can't sync.
Interesting.
And it's interesting because we both recognize it when it's going on, and we just punt, we turn the mics off, and we try another time.
Wow.
So for me, I want to be good at this. If I'm going to podcast, if I'm going to do something, I want to be very diligent about being good. Now, I'm not going to say that I'm great. I think I have a long way to go. I think I'm a better interviewer than I am a conversationalist, and that's one of the things I'm trying to work on. But for me, it's just a constant process of trying to get better, and a constant process of self-evaluation and self-measurement and self-degradation and imposter syndrome and all the things that come along with it. 334 episodes later, I'm flattered and floored as much today when somebody sends me a message and tells me what our podcast done to their life. Because I still can't believe anyone listens. That's how I feel a lot of the time. To combat that, back to the authenticity, I'm just really fucking passionate about this and what we do, and helping people discover a way to discover their best version.
There's a conversation we had, I think, when we were sitting down, but when I set out to start this podcast, it was because I saw cracks, I saw weaknesses that I really wanted to improve upon, right? And one of those things was being able to converse with a possible stranger and still be able to on the fly have questions. I mean, I'm getting better at doing a little bit more research so I could have, but those first, dozen episodes I recorded was just like, let's just see what let's just see what happens. Like, no, anything, we didn't have anything in mind to talk about, and we just went for it, But it's interesting because it does help you, because you listen to yourself and you go, I am lacking here, and it's tough because the sound of your own voice, it sometimes I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you talking so much? But it's cool because it lets you know that there is room for improvement, and that it'll help, because when I started doing this, it was, how do I walk into a room full of people? Because I applied for a job with the planning commission here for Douglas County, right? And it was an open interview with the town, so there's 300 people in this room, and then in the planning committee, they're firing questions off to me at this little stand, and I was mortified because I've never had to interview in front of that many people, right? But what it did is I walked out of there feeling pretty confident, but it was brand new for me because I was the one that would sit up in front of the class and holding the paper like this, and I can't make heads or tails of what I'm trying to say, right? But now I can go in and actually sit in a boardroom style meeting and conduct myself as a professional. And that's what I think this is starting to do, is helping me do that. So do you feel like there's any direct correlation to what you're doing. I mean, on the podcast side of it, I mean, you're a totally different animal because you're actually in a classroom setting talking to people. But on the podcast side, how does that go for you?
I'm better in a room with 1,000 people than I am one-on-one.
Oh,
I'm more comfortable.
She's shaking her head.
I'm more comfortable on stage in front of a group of people doing my thing as I am sitting down one-to-one. I am the worst conversationalist with a single person. And this is going to sound terrible, but it's because I just don't fucking care. I don't care about small talk. That's what it's not that I don't care about the people. I don't care about small talk.
Just a business.
I'm a psychopath. I want to know what you're doing to get better. Here's why I don't like small talk, Joel. Because I don't like average talk. That's why I don't like small talk. I don't like to talk about average things. I just don't. I don't care. I have this belief that every time you interact with someone, you're either adding or subtracting value.
Thank you.
And if I'm not adding value to them or they're not adding value to me, I'm not interested. And that may sound selfish, and I really don't mind, but I'm terrible at small talk. So if there were, say, 3 or 4 of us sitting at this table, we weren't recording, we were hanging out, I would talk the least because I would be listening and observing. And this goes back into me just like learning people, mannerisms, how people speak, the way that they ask questions, the whole thing. I would rather just sit back and listen is participate, because if somebody's like, hey man, like, how's it been? You don't have time for the answer, nor do you care.
No, you're not going to remember.
You're not going to remember.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that average in my life that's worth sharing. I mean, I have a normal life. We have an exceptional life. I have the best relationship I've ever had. The business is going well. I'm trying to focus more on my physical health. I don't have any complaints. Well, no one wants to hear that. So I reject negativity. And I've actually turned around and walked away from people in mid-sentence before, because I'm just not going to listen to it. That's my choice. Like, I get to decide how I spend my time. Sure. And if you just got negative shit coming out of your mouth, go spray that on somebody else. I have zero time for it. And I know I get this look on my face that's like, go kill yourself kind of look, and everybody's like, yeah. So anyway, I don't know if that answers your question, but you know, the podcasting for me, again, and to a point you made earlier, I'm trying to get better at being a conversationalist. Being interviewed is easy to be a conversationalist, but to interview people, I want to ask loaded questions, and I want people just to run with it, you know, and they'll tell you everything. That's what I like. So I think that makes me a better interviewer than a conversationalist.
It's funny because almost every single person that I've ever had on this show comes in going, I don't know what we're going to talk about, right? And it's so funny because you just feed them just a little bit of whiskey, and they have so much cool shit to say. And I can wholeheartedly say that I have never sat up from this table and been like, that was absolute dog shit. You know, this is more about skill development for me, but it's more of a platform if people are listening to get. Everybody has a really cool story, you know, and I love when they start talking about it, and it's like they're all over the map, you know. And that's been my favorite part, is there's no set. Like when I first started the show, it was going to be bourbon, it's going to be whiskey, it's going to be guns, and that was it, right? But then I kind of, you know, realized that I was going to run out of people to talk to really quick, right? And I mean, everybody loves guns here, but at some point, it made more sense to try to find a happy medium, you know, bring the whiskey to the show, you know, figure out some way to incorporate that to everybody that we're bringing on, but at the same time, let people tell their story, because everybody's got, you know, they got some shit that they would love to talk about. So it's been a super fun journey thus far, and hopefully years down the road I'll make it to episode 334, you know, but like I said, it's been awesome. So I did want to kind of switch gears a little bit. because you do have more than just a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And that was fun talking about, but we can talk about that anytime. So I want to talk to you about Blue Collar Insider.
Okay.
Because this is a fairly new venture for you and Greg. Tell me a little bit about it, and then we'll just kind of go from there.
Thank you for mentioning Greg. Greg Giroux, the guy is one of my best friends now. We are partners in several different things going on in our life. I had the Tradesman Experience, which we just talked about, and he has a company called True Pros. He wanted to help people like I wanted to help people, but his zone of genius is financial operations. He wanted to teach business owners how to make money with their business and how to do it legally and how to do it intelligently. And it was because of his struggle and his backstory and what he discovered. And then he grew a passion for wanting to educate other people and also lift the market and help people in the blue collar industries have profitable careers.
What a noble concept.
Nailed it. So we start working together on a kind of a light level after our first 2-day business builder that we did in Reno of 24. I think 20. Yeah, Reno of 24. After that, we decided we need to bring this together. So Blue Collar Insiders is a marriage of the Tradesman Experience and True Pros. So we combined our zones of genius, our skill sets, our passion, built Blue Collar Insiders, and then formed a coaching structure underneath that. Because he wanted to figure out how to get in front of more people. I wanted to figure out how to get in front of more people. We both want to add value. And what we also recognize, Joel, is if you look at a lot of the coaches, and I'm using that term loosely because for the love of God, there's a lot of talking heads. And there's a lot of GPA MBAs with no experience. That's not us. But if you dive into the coaching, people specialize in one or the other, just like we did. I focus on leadership, operations, and culture. That's my wheelhouse. He focuses on financial operations, profits, and pricing. That's his wheelhouse. So we were doing the same thing everybody else was doing. We were a single entity. We decided that we can bring people and profits together. We can teach you how to be a successful leader, how to make money, how to read the financial gauges of your company, and also hire correctly, how to lead correctly. So now you're getting 2 fire hydrants, right? Like of information, but we're weaponizing you in a way that's different than anybody else that's in our arena because everybody else takes a singular approach. So Blue Collar Insiders, that was, again, that was the birth of our 2 companies coming together.
So you talked about the business builder, the workshops, right? And can you lead me into what one of those actually looks like from somebody that's looking on the outside?
Yeah. We've got a couple ways that you can get into our community. One is through our Blue Collar Bootcamp. That's a 12-week online course that we do, and it's group coaching. There's so much information in there, but we have modules recorded about that week's topic. We have 12 weeks outlined. Everybody gets the outline of the 12 weeks, so you know what's coming. We launch that. A week later, we have a live Q&A. Greg and I together have a live Q&A with the community for an hour to hour and a half, and you get to ask questions in real time. We've learned that, and this is part of me getting better, because I'm like, no, stick to the script. I'm like, we're talking about overhead. Why are you asking me about leadership? You know, and so I've gotten better at that, and we've widened that lane of conversation.
That's funny.
But people get to bring their questions, their problems, their concerns to a group of people that are like-minded and want to succeed and want them to succeed. So we do that for 12 weeks. We have about a 2-week break, and we do it again. We have 3 of those a year. So that's one way to get into the Blue Collar Insider community. The second way is through our 2-day business builder. you come to us for 2 days, and it's immersive, fully immersive. We do leadership training. We do real-time financial training. You bring your numbers, we put it up on a PowerPoint, and we teach you with your numbers how to read them and determine if you're profitable or not. So everything is about application that we do. The 2-day business builder, we talk about systems, we talk about operations, we go through hiring, we role play hiring, we role play firing. We introduce our value engine sales training in our 2-day business builder. We're going to teach you how to communicate with your client, how to identify their want or need, how to create option-based solutions so they get to decide what's best for them. We're going to teach you how to walk them through that. So it's 2 days, it's 9 hours a day, both days, fully immersive. You leave with bruises and 100, literally 100-page playbook that you build for your company in 2 days. You leave with that. So you leave with a battle plan. That's the second way to get into the community. Once you're in, we've got other options that we offer people for coaching, higher level options.
So is this something essentially for just the business owner, or are they bringing their teams in?
Yeah, that's a great question. Both. Any decision maker in the company is going to get full benefit from either of those two programs.
Okay.
It's not really going to make sense to an apprentice. But if you have a project manager, if you have a superintendent, if you have a salesperson, if you have a team lead that makes a lot of decisions, that information is going to be valuable to them. That's something else that with the boot camp is the way that we price our boot camp, Joel, is it's per company, not per person. Right? So you can sign up for $247 a month for 3 months and you can put your whole team through it. I don't care. I don't have time to micromanage how people use our information. I just want you to get better. Plain and simple. So it's this really, really, really valuable option for people to plug into their company and have this tremendous access of information in this community that's only going to make them better.
And do they have access to you guys outside of that afterwards? I mean, if they have specific questions that they didn't quite get during the boot camp or during, do they still have access to you guys to ask those kind of questions? We
do it a couple ways. One is we have a private Facebook group. So if you're in the community,
that makes sense.
I encourage everyone, if you have a question, throw it up in the Facebook, because what I tell people is if I'm the bottleneck of your success, we've got problems. I want you to use the community to get better, not just me, not just Greg. That's the first line of approach. The second is if you got something very specific, you can email me or Greg. We'll jump on a call and we'll walk you through it. If you want high-level coaching and you want one-to-one coaching, we offer that too. The high value, it costs more. It's worth more.
Sure.
Plain and simple. But once you go through the boot camp or the builder, the one-to-one coaching, which we call the Forge, is available then.
So I guess, and this is going to be, you're able to tailor this to anybody in any trade, really. This is going to make, a financial sense, I guess, regardless of, but I've tried to really preach your guys' knowledge to as many people as I can, that I have, friends here in the trades, because I feel like there is so much value added by what, even just the podcast. But I really do recommend everybody at least go try the boot camp, do something to try to better themselves, because there's such a massive disconnect from owning a business and successfully running a business. You know
where that disconnect comes from? The identity. Most people that go start a business is because they have a skill. They take that skill because they're usually unhappy with their employer, their previous employer. They missed a promotion. They got overlooked. They don't feel valued. So they take that skill and they go out and they start an LLC. They maybe put a sticker on a vehicle. They buy a bunch of tools, and then they go out and they try to sell their skill. So nothing about that skill has anything to do with business. It has anything to do with sales. It doesn't have anything to do with leadership. It doesn't have anything to do with profit. It has everything to do with your ability to fix a problem with your hands. And that's a great skill to have. The hang up is that's what their identity is tied to. So if they say, I'm a plumber, I'm going to start a business and I'm going to be a better plumber. And that's their plan.
Right.
The reality is that plan is arbitrary because that metric doesn't equal success in business. So what we offer is everything to complement their skill. Teach them business, teach them sales, teach them leadership, teach them systems and operations. And I say teach. We do a lot of value offering. People are going to learn what they want to learn. But we want you to weaponize yourself with business so it complements your skills so you make money. And that you have people that are loyal. And people know how to ask for a pay raise or understand what's required of them to achieve a pay raise. So the fact that they start a business and own a job is, I think, the sole responsible piece of that is that their identity is still attached to the skill.
There are plenty of people out there that are very good at what they do.
Yes.
But then are terrible business people, And so, I mean, I grew up as a residential painter with my father, and he would take me out on weekends. After school, I'd go to work with him, and he was a phenomenal painter. I mean, he was the best. At the time, this valley was a third of the size, and he was the shit, the absolute shit. And I still to this day, hand to God, believe that. But he did not possess. He needed somebody else to be running that business for him. He would go out and do the work beautifully, but then on the business end of it is where he was really struggling. So it makes complete sense to what you're saying. You can be very good at what you do. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a successful businessman.
Can we talk on that for a moment?
Let's please.
Because I realize everything I just said may be misunderstood. I don't expect you to know how to do all of those things that I just listed. Because the secret to business is hiring people that are better at their job than you are.
Yes.
But you got to know how to do that. So if you're a phenomenal painter, you can hire an office manager. You can hire a superintendent. You can hire someone to run your business if you want to paint. And that's okay. Right. I think it's important for people to understand. That's okay. I never want to push people to hire people because that's what I think is right for them. What I think is right for them is be intimate about what you want to do in your company and hire everything else. Automate it, delegate it, eliminate it. If you're not spending 80% of your time in the area of your business where you're most valuable and add the most value and are happiest, your business is going to suck because you suck. And your business is a direct reflection of you. So if you're good at painting, your business is great at painting. But if you're not good at numbers, you don't know if you're profitable. If you're great at profit but can't paint, you're going to do a shitty job and make a lot of money until you get a bad reputation. So I don't want people to think that they're going to come into our 12-week program and leave as a RoboCop of business,
right?
Where they can do all of those things. I think you need to understand them, but you don't have to be a professional. Do you think I go through QuickBooks? You're out of your mind. I hate QuickBooks. I don't like paperwork. I don't like administrative stuff. I'm a hands-on guy. I'm a builder fixer. So guess what? We hire people. I have a bookkeeper. I have Greg. Greg and I sat down. I don't have to create the reports because he loves to do that crap. So he creates the reports. We go through them together because as a business owner, I have a responsibility of the financial success of my business and of my team. So I have to know what I'm looking at. Doesn't mean I have to be the best at it. So I appreciate you saying that about your father because, again, that's where people get hung up. If you don't want to be the best leader, hire the best leader.
Exactly right. And I think that the goal of business ownership is to hire people that work for you that can, like you're saying, can do the jobs that you can't, and then propel you to a level that you have the oversight to allow them to grow, to do better, and therefore, hence making your business better.
Absolutely.
So this is a great segue because I want to talk, because you're journey started with it in the HVAC industry years ago, and you had some trials and tribulations. You yourself were in a position that you had some troubles, right? So you're back in the business. Okay, so I want to know, really, let's talk about the previous company versus this one. How is this different?
Well, how deep do you want me to go into the previous company?
We got plenty of time.
So,
right?
okay. Yeah. So,
How you doing on your drink?
I'll take a little more.
Mike Rowe, this is good stuff.
It is good stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try some of that stuff too.
Yeah, I like it. I appreciate, again, the bottle. What a great compliment from you.
Thank you.
I got, since we're drinking and we got time, I have been in and around DIY blue collar since I was a toddler. I think first time I ever swung a hammer, I was about 3 years old. Just driving nails into a 2x4 sitting on the floor of the old man's garage. And I've been hands-on ever since. So I didn't know anything else. I'm a fixer. I'm a problem solver. And I can take it apart. I can figure out how it works. She gets on to me all the time because every time we rent a vehicle, I push every button in the car because I want to know what it does. I want to know. Or I'm turning the lane assist off and the steering assist off and the automatic ignition. I hate all that crap. So I was around construction and again, the whole DIY process my whole life. And in 2001, I got into the HVAC. Up to 2013, I had built a pretty good reputation of being a decent service technician and had an opportunity to go into business with, at the time, a very close friend. We go into business 2013, 14, 15, 16, like through 15, dude. When I say we were killing it, we changed the standard in our industry, in our area. We changed the market. That's how aggressive we were. And I'm talking about Podunk, Southern Illinois, small town. I'm not talking about a metropolitan area with a high population. But we made such an aggressive impact that we changed the market. And I truly believe that. And I say that with humility and conviction. We were running 12 members we had a 12-man team, and we were crushing, dude. I mean, life was great. My team, they didn't care where I was. They didn't need me there to do their job. They didn't care. Hey guys, I'm going on vacation. Okay, don't call us. That's what they would tell me. Mama D. Mama D is a legend on my podcast.
Yeah, Mama D is. Yeah, she is.
I'm going to get her on there one day. I promise the world. But, when I would take vacation, and I was doing all kinds of crazy shit back then. I was running 6 or 7 Spartan races a year. So I was traveling all over doing that, doing vacations, like just kind of the life of a young entrepreneur, if you will. I wasn't really doing everything I wanted, but I was seeing if I could push the envelope. But I would go on vacation, and Mama D say, don't call me. And she would rip the guys. Do not call him. You need something, you tell me. And the rule was if Mama D called, it was an emergency. And it was bananas because I would go on vacation and no one would talk to me. But it was amazing. So we did some phenomenal things. I still have relationships with the people that were on my team. 2016, there were things that started to change internally. The relationship with my partner changed because his behavior drastically changed. And we made some poor decisions moving forward. And then he slowly started to separate from the business, which left a hole because he wasn't willing to relinquish the control or the responsibility, but he didn't want the responsibility. So here's the biggest mistake that I made, Joel. And this is why I love Greg. I was not involved in the financial operations of that first business. I trusted someone on my behalf because every decision that I made was on our behalf. I never made a single decision that would negatively impact him for self-gain. I was always first to sacrifice. And I come to find out that he wasn't. I blame him for what he did, but I blame myself because I didn't know.
Sure.
So my ignorance enabled the bad behavior because I couldn't measure it. I have no number to give you, but let's just say we were doing almost $2.5 million a year in revenue and we were broke. And when I say broke, we had vendors that were starting to shut us off because we were over 90 days out on payment. And I mean every vendor. So I made a commitment to myself that I would spend 2017 trying to turn that ship around. And I had a lot of hard conversations, made for a lot of awkward days, weeks, and months. And I was very immature, way more immature than not that I handled the conversations wrong, but there was a lot of emotion involved.
Sure.
We're also talking about millions of dollars on the line, in revenue. So
I had to be a little emotional about that.
It's okay, I think.
Yeah.
And I couldn't turn the business around because he had just decided that he wanted the lifestyle that he wanted, and we couldn't afford it. I tell him, and this is where I had to be very strategic. I appreciate you letting me go into detail about this. I had to be very strategic because we had a lot of debt. We had $800,000 in debt, which I found out the day after I told him I wanted to leave. So it was his attempt to bully me into staying because I was his meal ticket. So I meet with him the next morning after I also didn't blame him because, again, back to strategy, I had to be very emotionally disciplined. I said, hey, I'm burnt out. I want to create an exit strategy that's not going to harm you or the team or the company. And that's how I approached it. The next morning, he lays out all of these things in front of me. We're $830-some thousand in debt. Shit. And if I showed you our vans and building, you would be like, where is the money? And I had a crossroad of emotion right then, Joel. It was one is just to cave his skull in and deal with the consequences, or B, take the intelligent approach and figure out, okay, now I know what I'm faced with. I've got to figure out how to get around this. The vendors and the vehicles was, I don't want to say easy, but that was the simplest of the problem. The biggest problem was I had a $250,000 line of credit that was maxed out that I was a personal guarantee on.
Oh, cool.
Yes. Him and I both were signed on to this $250,000 that this bank had. And we had only been making interest payments. He had also been, because I'm not, there's no perjury here and I don't want to, it's too late now, but he had been cooking the books. So our accounts receivable was high enough that the bank didn't call our line of credit. This is one of the things I'm not, which is illegal.
Yeah, you don't
fraud.
want that. Yeah.
It's called fraud.
Yeah. I was supposed to do that. Yeah.
Actually fraud.
Oh my gosh.
So I had a mentor at the time, a guy behind the scenes that was a genius, brilliant businessman, into banking a lot, owned a few banks, smart in business, all this kind of stuff. He's in the background mentoring me through all of this. He actually introduces me to his personal attorney. His personal attorney sits down with me, mentors me through a lot of the stuff. And it all came down to this $250,000. And he said, you'll never get out of it, but this is the hang up. So we go to the bank, we meet with the loan officer. I sat down, greatest sales moment of my life. I laid it all out in his words. Yeah, that makes sense to me, and signed me off that $250,000.
Oh shit!
I was exploding, couldn't fucking believe it.
Wow.
Signed me off, knew I was released, signed a 3-year no compete, took my shit, left with no debt and no money, and got the hell out of there.
Well, that's a pretty good fairy tale. Ending. For the way it could have went.
The best possible.
That's crazy.
Ending. And within the 7 months of my departure, they had a 100% turnover. The company's a fraction of the size that it was. It's terrible.
Still operating today?
Barely.
Yeah. Still has a page in the phone book, whatever that means.
Yeah.
I'm old. So I guess that's a really easy way to determine how the new companies. I did see that you kept on, because you bought this company from a retiring husband and wife, right? I'm guessing. Okay. And you kept everybody on that was already in play there, which is fucking cool to me, that you guys are going to make that work and nobody's worried about losing their job.
That was our primary focus going into the acquisition. The price and terms is standard business negotiating. Their concern was their employees. My concern was their employees. So we had more conversations about what this transition looked like for their team than we did about the money. Because I wanted to make sure that we didn't scare them off and we didn't scare the clients off. So we were probably most deliberate about that. And I actually met with the team before we signed and spent 3 hours with them answering all of their questions and building equity with them and getting their buy-in and a lot of the things that we talk about. But I wanted them to know that we weren't going to come in and change a bunch of things and say, this is how we're going to do it. I asked them what they wanted. Asked them what they wanted to do. What ideas do they have? And I can't tell you how amazing it's been. I've had zero resistance since taking over. Zero resistance from the team. They are charging into the fray, carrying our new ideas and our visions and trying to make this work. It doesn't seem real, but it's incredible. So we've been very deliberate about a lot of these things, but not the business so much as the partnership. Because, see, it wasn't the business that failed the first time. It was the partnership that failed. So for me, going into a new partnership was more important than the business. Greg and I have had the hardest conversations you could ever have as partners and come out of every single one of them better. Because you have to have patience and you have to have humility and you have to be a good communicator. And I'm not saying we do it perfect, but we work really hard to try to make it right. So we have the conversations that you're supposed to be having. It's why our relationship is so good. We have the conversations that you're supposed to have with your spouse, as uncomfortable as they may be. But every time you get better. So for me, it wasn't as much about the business as it was about the partnership. The business is easy. There's simple metrics. The business is easy. The people is what matter. So that's been our focus. How do we get better so we can make everything else better? The other side of that, thanks for letting me ramble, Joe.
Sure.
The other side of that, and this is something I heard recently that resonated with me, is the first time I went into business in 2013, I just wanted to be right. That was all. I just wanted to be right because I felt like I had been wronged so much in my career that I just wanted to be right. The maturity in business is understanding that it's not about being right, it's about being successful. And those are not the same thing.
No, they're not.
So my perspective and focus has now changed as becoming successful. And what does that mean, and what does that mean for us? That's what we've determined. I don't care about being right. We're not right. We're probably wrong more than we are almost right.
Yeah.
But for us now, it's about being successful. It's about our team being successful. It's about our clients being successful. And at the end of the day, if we get to do that right, it's a win.
I'm hoping, I have no doubt that this is going to go much better this time around. You've got a great partner that is very forward focused. And I said, you guys playing to each other's strengths, I think it's a recipe for success. So now the team, watching you guys, I mean, you guys are coming in, not necessarily just going, here's how we're going to do things, because you talk about that enough, but that you don't just come in and force your ideals on somebody. And this business has been around for how long?
Since 1947.
Yeah, so you can't just go, hey guys, guess what we're going to do? Yeah. Fuck everything you know. We're going to start over, right? But they're adaptive. They're thinking on their feet. They're moving forward and helping you guys make this an easier transition.
Because everything that we're doing immediately, we talk to them about it. They've even helped us create some of it, and it's built to make them more successful.
So you're asking them the questions, what they need to succeed, and you guys are listening. I mean, that's crazy to me to think about. That's how that works. I don't really want to get too deep into it, but I feel like there's a lot of in my line of work, my agency, people are being promoted past their skill level, and we have, because they have a license and doing whatever it is, they're now all the way at the top. And I'm not speaking about anybody in specific, but it just feels like you can't get ahead because you have something that's very smart. You know, they're very book smart, but have zero people skills. And watching them just nosedive, you know, a section or a division or the entire division, you know, the agency just right into the ground. You know, it's unfortunate. So I'm glad, and obviously you're going to know that because you're in that business, you know. But I think as business owners, a lot of times pride gets in the way, and you make these irrational decisions because you want to be right. You don't necessarily.
I'm not so sure it's as much irrational as it is uneducated. They're not educated in how to develop people, communicate, ask questions, lead, develop infrastructure, systems and operations, create buy-in, empower people, give them responsibility with equal authority. They're not taught how to do that. They're back to the identity of owning a skill. That's what they're taught to do. So the copy-paste model for small businesses is that they start a business and then everyone they hire, they just want them to work like they do and know what they know, and they don't have to manage them. And then they get irritated when the people don't do what they want, and yet the people that aren't doing what they want don't understand what the expectations are because it was never communicated clearly. So it's this psychotic hamster wheel of idiocracy and not stupid, just ignorant, just uneducated. Stupid is being dumb on purpose. Okay. The fact that they're not educated about how to do this is you weren't educated how to talk, how to walk, how to ride a bike, how to do arithmetic. You learned those things. Those are skills. Business is a skill. Leadership is a skill. Reading a profit and loss is a skill. But we get so egotistical in the fact that we don't want to be found out that we don't know something. We cover it with belligerence and noise, and then we just fire people for all the wrong reasons.
Just talk louder.
Yeah,
and then they'll listen for sure. It always works that way.
And then the opposite problem is we promote people with the wrong metrics. They got an A on the test, promote them.
Right.
Okay. What is that test? What is it relevant to? So
yeah, if you get into a position, a management position, and you have zero people skills, that's going to be a problem. Just because you are a fantastic engineer, a fantastic architect, it doesn't matter. If you can't handle all those people below you, I mean, not handle them, but being able to talk to them, you know, communicate with them well, then that's going to definitely be mission failure. And so, well, cool. I'm excited to see how this goes. I mean, obviously, I'm going to keep tuning in. With that, I just want to give you, is there anything that we may not have covered that we should have that I may have left out?
Let's bring it all the way back to close to where we started. Some of the questions that I get is, you know, what's the one thing I need to know to be a better leader, or to sell more work, or to have a profitable company? And the one thing that you need to know is there's not one thing. But what I will tell people is, if, this is a big, bold, capitalized if you want to be successful in business, you have to be successful as an individual first. And most people don't want to work that hard. You have to have a successful relationship with your significant other. You have to have a successful, honest relationship with yourself. That's the nucleus of becoming a sustainable, successful leader. People build widgets all the time and they make millions of dollars. How many of them are happy? How many of them have spouses that actually like being around them? How many of them have children that respect and admire them? Not many. I don't have a metric. I'm just asking honest questions. If you want to do the one thing right, focus on developing yourself. Be the father, be the mother, the spouse, be the leader for yourself. Be selfish in that aspect. It's selfish to go to the gym, but it gives everyone else a better version of you. It's selfish to have hard conversations about what you want in a relationship, but it makes you a better version for your significant other. And that's where I start to lose people, Joe. I just got to be honest, because again, people want to, if you're looking at business, they want to know how can they make more money, how can they sell more widgets, and how can they spend money on the things that they want. And that's all fine and dandy, but it's not sustainable. There's no legacy in that. Focus on yourself, develop yourself, have true, hard, honest conversations about the piece of shit that you're being to your wife and to your kids, and that you're drinking and you're sneaking around on social media, and that you're addicted to all the things that you don't need to be addicted to. I don't tell women how to behave because I'm not one. But if you want to be a man, you better cowboy the fuck up. Be a man. Be a provider. Be a protector. Be a supporter, and be that role model and that leader for you and your family and in your home that you're supposed to be. If you can't do that, fuck your business. Because I think it starts there.
That's fantastic. I think that at this point, I want to give you an opportunity to plug all the things that we need to talk about. You know, if we can get people over to your podcast, if we can get people, you know, looking at the Blue Collar Insider. I mean, can you tell us where to find you at?
BlueCollarInsiders.com. Our next boot camp kicks off, I think it's the beginning of August. It's our last one for the year. That takes us into our 2-day business builder, which is going to be the 6th or 7th of November. It's the first Thursday and Friday in November. That's going to be held in St. Louis, Missouri. So you can get on the wait list there. The business builder is limited seating. I tell people that because if we have a big crowd, you're not going to get the value that we want you to get. So we do have a capacity, and it's a small capacity. It's like 30 people, and we don't let too many people in there. Go check that out. Also, we're doing a one-day event. I've doing a collaborative with Steve Rosenberg and Joni Wolfswinkel, some fellow coaches and friends of mine. We're doing a one-day event August 26th down in Houston. You can go to the tradesmanexperience.com. There's a link on that. You can get tickets. And yeah, man, the podcast, it's a privilege to get to release content every Monday, and we just try to add value to people. So let me say in final, Joel, it's an honor to be here.
Oh, thank you.
The invitation, well received. I appreciate, you having us in your home and sitting down and doing this and introducing us to your audience. And the whiskey's great. The company's even better. And this was a blast, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I did want to definitely let people know where to find, if you go to Knobelspirits.com, they have like value packs. You can get all 4 of the different bottles for a couple $100. And I really did want to do that because I wanted to try first before I got the full line, but now I'm very intrigued. And so, again, I think that the message behind the bottle is what really catapulted me into spending the money to get it. With Knobel Whiskey, the Mike Rowe Works Foundation, you can find that at mikeroweworks.org, and you can find me on all socials at Bourbon and Ballistics. Josh, thank you I know you guys are here on vacation. Thank you for hanging out. Super fun. I just wanted to say that Josh, you remind us that leadership is forged by fire and refined through reflection. To lead others, we must first lead ourselves. So here's to those who rise, not just through the ranks, but through the fire. To those who build themselves before they build others. To whiskey, to work, and to the blue-collared spirit that never quits. Cheers.
Oh, yeah.
I cross state lines with hillbillies and guns. It's been a hell of a ride and a whole lot of fun. They gave me many names down there in Dixie.